My name is Claire Whitman. I'm 36. For 13 years, I paid for my little sister's mistakes. College, cars, rent, even her dream wedding. Then on her wedding night, she raised a champagne glass, looked straight at me, and said, "Let's all thank Claire for showing me exactly what kind of woman I never wanted to become." People laughed. She thought I'd sit there and take it. She forgot one thing. Inside my clutch was proof. And by the end of that night, my sister wished I never came. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Heavy ivory cardstock, gold trim. Expensive enough to feel like an insult. Inside was a note. Not from Audrey, from her planner. "You'll be seated at table 19, rear section. Family photos before guest arrival." Then Audrey's handwriting. "Please don't make this about you." I stared at those words. Then my phone buzzed. Her text. "Wear something simple." Something about that smiley face made my stomach turn. Audrey is 8 years younger than me. Beautiful, charming, always forgiven. I was the responsible one. She was the loved one. When she cried, people comforted her. When I struggled, people handed me more responsibility. That became our family pattern. Audrey needed, Claire provided. And somehow, everyone called that love. When Audrey got into private college, Dad couldn't afford tuition. Mom was sick. Audrey cried at the kitchen table like her life was over. So I stepped in. Extra shifts, debt, sold jewelry Mom left me. Audrey went to college. At graduation, Dad cried and said, "My girl did it." He wasn't talking about me. That should have taught me something. It didn't. Miles Carter. That was the groom. Tall, polished, old money. Audrey called me after their first date. "He's different." I asked why. She said, "He has a driver." That told me everything. 11 months later, she got engaged. Then came the phone call. Tears. Panic. "Claire, I need help." Of course she did. It started with the venue deposit, then flowers, then catering, then the dress, then emergency changes, then more emergencies. Every time. Just this once. By the end, I had paid nearly $100,000. My thank you gift? A scented candle. I wish I were kidding. At the dress fitting, Audrey stood in silk while her bridesmaids drank champagne. Then she looked at me in the mirror, smiled, and said, "Please don't wear anything dramatic. I don't want comparisons." The room laughed. Softly, politely, cruelly. I smiled back, but something inside me went cold. Because humiliation always starts before the event. If you've ever been the one everyone depends on, but nobody truly appreciates, drop "I felt that" in the comments. 3 weeks before the wedding, Dad asked if I was upset Audrey was getting married first. Not because I was being used, not because I was paying, because he thought I was jealous. I looked at him and realized something awful. He truly didn't see it, didn't see me, and somehow, that hurt more than Audrey ever had. 2 nights later, I got an email. Final balance. Due, $42,800. I froze. Audrey said everything was handled. I called the venue. The coordinator said, "Since you're the financial guarantor." I sat up straight. "I'm what?" Then they sent the contract. And there it was. My name. My signature. Except, I never signed it. The date on the contract was March 12th. I remembered that day. 14-hour trauma surgery. Exhausted. Covered in blood. Barely conscious. Which meant Audrey picked that exact day to forge my name. Not a mistake. Not confusion. Not carelessness. Deliberate. My sister hadn't just used me. She committed fraud. And that changed everything. My lawyer read everything, then looked at me. One sentence. "Claire, this is fraud." I should have shut the wedding down. Instead, I asked for every invoice, every email, every receipt, and found one message from Audrey. Claire is difficult, but she always pays eventually. I printed everything, put it into a cream envelope, and wrote 3 words: for the toast. The wedding morning was beautiful. Cold sunlight, blue sky, perfect weather, the kind people call a blessing. I stood in my kitchen holding coffee I wasn't drinking. The cream envelope sat beside my purse. Heavy, quiet, dangerous. Then Audrey texted, "Don't be late. No thank you. No kindness. Just instructions. Same as always." But this time, I wasn't coming to rescue her. I wore navy. Exactly what I promised. Elegant, simple, nothing flashy. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Calm, controlled, almost cold. Mara had told me, the most dangerous person in the room is the calm one with evidence. I remembered that while putting on earrings, then slipped the envelope into my clutch, and left. Rose Hall looked ridiculous. Stone mansion, perfect gardens, white roses everywhere, champagne towers, string quartet, money pretending to be romance. Guests smiled, laughed, took photos. No one knew the bride couldn't afford half of it. No one knew whose name was on the contracts. No one knew I was carrying the truth in my handbag. Yet, table 19 was exactly where promised. Back corner, near the service entrance, almost hidden. I laughed when I saw it. After everything I paid, this was my seat. A waitress whispered, "Can I get you champagne?" I smiled. "No, thank you." I wanted a clear head, because humiliation is easier when you're emotional. Audrey knew that. She just forgot I'd stopped being emotional. As I watched guests arrive, family photos started near the garden. Audrey, Dad, Miles, bridesmaids, Miles's parents, even distant cousins. No one called me. Not once. I stood alone beside a flower wall I helped pay for. Then Cousin Tessa walked past, smirked, and said, "Guess not everyone makes the album." Then kept walking. That was deliberate. This whole thing was. Miles found me near the bar. He looked genuinely surprised. "Claire." I smiled politely. "Congratulations." He frowned slightly. "Everything okay?" Interesting question. Either he sensed tension, or Audrey had told him something. Before I could answer, Audrey appeared. Hand on his arm. Bright, fake smile. "There you are." Then to me. "Try not to disappear before dinner." Miles looked confused. I noticed that, and filed it away. During cocktail hour, I overheard 2 bridesmaids talking. They didn't know I was behind them. One laughed. "Do you think Audrey will actually do it?" The other, "She's absolutely doing it." Then, "Honestly, Claire deserves it." I went still. "Deserves what?" Then heels clicked. Conversation ended. But now I knew something. This wasn't random cruelty. They had planned something. And I had just walked into it. Dad found me near sunset, looking uncomfortable, like always. "Claire." I waited. He cleared his throat. "Audrey's stressed." I almost laughed. That was his opening? Not. "Are you okay?" Not. "Thank you." Not. "I know what she's like." Just, "Audrey's stressed." I looked at him, then said quietly, "Dad, do you even know what she did?" His face changed. Just slightly. That told me enough. He knew something. At dinner, I found something at my plate. A handwritten place card. Different from the others. Mine read, "Claire, family, benefactor." Not sister. Not family, benefactor. I stared at it, then looked across the room. Audrey was watching me, smiling, slowly sipping champagne, waiting for my reaction. There it was. The humiliation had officially started, and we hadn't even reached speeches. Then the wedding coordinator approached, clipboard in hand, professional smile. "Dr. Whitman?" "Yes." Audrey added you to the toast list? I froze. I didn't agree to a toast. She smiled apologetically. She said you'd be honored. Across the room, Audrey lifted her glass toward me, like a queen acknowledging entertainment. That's when I understood. She wanted a public performance, a humiliation, in front of everyone. What Audrey didn't know? I had prepared one too. Dinner ended. Lights dimmed. Glasses clinked. Then Audrey stood. Perfect white gown. Perfect smile. Perfect performance. She tapped her champagne glass. Before we continue. The room went quiet. I felt it instantly. This was it. She looked directly at me and smiled. That slow, practiced smile, the one she used right before hurting someone. Some people in life, Audrey said, teach you what strength looks like. Polite smiles, nods. Then she continued. And some teach you what bitterness looks like. Soft laughter. My stomach went cold. Miles turned toward her, confused. Audrey kept going. Claire always believed sacrifice makes you superior. A few awkward chuckles, then she raised her glass. Let's thank my sister. Pause. Smile. For showing me exactly what kind of woman I never wanted to become. The room laughed, and there it was. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't react. That confused her. She expected tears, embarrassment, a scene. Instead, I just sat there. Still. Miles leaned toward Audrey, whispered something. She ignored him. Dad stared at his plate. Of course he did. Tessa smirked openly. Across the room, one bridesmaid actually looked disappointed, like I'd ruined the entertainment. Good. Audrey tilted her head. Claire, microphone still in hand. Would you like to say something? The room turned. Every face, every eye, waiting. This was her trap. Public pressure, forced humiliation. But I smiled, small, controlled, and stood. Audrey's expression changed, just slightly, because for the first time that night, she looked uncertain. The walk to the microphone felt strangely peaceful. Heels on marble, soft music fading, people watching. I could feel Audrey beside me, radiating confidence. She thought this was still her moment. I reached the mic, adjusted it, looked at her, then at the guests, and said, "Thank you, Audrey." Her smile returned. Too early. I've known Audrey her whole life. Light laughter. Good. Keep them comfortable. I changed her diapers. A few smiles. I packed her school lunches. Dad looked up. I paid her tuition. That shifted the room. Audrey's smile tightened. Miles turned toward her. I kept going. Helped with rent. Silence now. Bought her replacement car. Someone whispered. Audrey gripped her bouquet harder. And I was only getting started. Miles looked genuinely confused. Actually confused? Interesting. That meant Audrey hadn't told him everything. I continued. And of course. I smiled at Audrey. The wedding? A pause. The room went still. Miles frowned. Audrey stepped closer. Claire. Soft warning. Too late. I looked at Miles. Did you know I paid almost $100,000 for tonight? His face changed instantly. He did not know. Claire. Audrey's voice cracked this time. Stop. Not sisterly, not embarrassed, panicked. That was new. I looked at her. Why? She forced a laugh. Don't do this. Interesting wording. Not. That's not true. Not. You're mistaken. Just. Don't do this. Miles looked between us. Audrey? No answer, because she knew what came next. I opened my clutch. Slowly. The cream envelope appeared, the same one I'd carried all night. Guests leaned in, even the bridesmaids. Audrey went pale. Actually, pale. No. Barely audible. I pulled out the forged contract, held it up, then said, "Since we're discussing character..." Silence. Total silence. This seemed relevant. Miles stepped forward. What is that? Audrey looked like she might collapse. Good. I looked directly at my sister, then at the room, then spoke clearly. 3 months ago, Audrey forged my signature to make me legally responsible for this wedding. Gasps. Actual gasps. Miles grabbed the paper. Read. His face changed. Fast. Audrey shook her head. Claire, that's not... I pulled out the emails, receipts, payment records, and smiled, because now, the real wedding had started. If someone in your family ever used your kindness as weakness, comment, never again. Miles took the contract from my hand, read the first page, then the signature page, then looked at Audrey. What is this? His voice was calm, too calm. Audrey shook her head fast. Claire's twisting this. I said nothing, just handed him the payment records. One by one. Venue, florist, band, dress. Miles' expression hardened. Because numbers don't cry. Numbers don't lie. Audrey? Miles again. This time sharper. She laughed. Fake, brittle. Oh my God, seriously. Nobody joined her. That was the problem. No audience, no allies. Just silence. Then she snapped at me. You picked my wedding to do this? I tilted my head. You picked your wedding to humiliate me. That landed. Hard. Because everyone had heard her speech. Now context had arrived. Cousin Tessa suddenly became fascinated with her wine glass. No smirking now, no comments. One bridesmaid stared at the tablecloth, another checked her phone. Funny how fast loyalty dies when receipts appear. Audrey looked around, searching for support. Nobody moved, because cruelty is entertaining. Until evidence shows up. Then everyone suddenly remembers morality. Claire. Dad stood, voice weak. This isn't the time. I looked at him. Actually looked. Really? Silence. Not when she mocked me publicly? He swallowed. Let's discuss this privately. Of course. Private. That's where families like mine like truth. Hidden, contained, manageable. I shook my head. No. For once, the silence belonged to me. Miles looked at Audrey. Did she pay for this wedding? No answer. Audrey. Still silence. Then. Some of it. I almost laughed. Miles looked at the invoices. $96,000 is some? Gasps again. Audrey's mascara was starting to crack. Good. Because this was the first honest thing about tonight. Then Miles's mother stood. Elegant, cold, controlled. The kind of woman who probably ironed anger. She looked at Audrey. Is this true? Audrey blinked. No performance now. No cute bride voice. Just panic. Marlene, please. Wrong answer. Marlene held out her hand. Miles gave her the forged contract. She read silently, then slowly looked up. Oh. Just one word, but devastating. I pulled out one last paper. Audrey saw it and actually whispered, No. I read aloud. Clear enough for everyone. Claire is difficult. But she always pays eventually. The room went dead. No movement, no clinking glasses. Nothing. Miles stared at Audrey, like he was seeing a stranger. Did you write that? She started crying, but didn't answer, which was answer enough. Claire. Tears now. Real or strategic, hard to tell. Please. Interesting. Not sorry, not apology. Just please. Because consequences had arrived. I looked at her calmly. You wanted an audience. Her breathing turned shaky. This isn't fair. That almost made me laugh. Fair? After 13 years? After fraud? After public humiliation? Now she wanted fairness. Remarkable. Miles removed his wedding ring. Just slowly, quietly. Set it on the table. The room collectively stopped breathing. Audrey? His voice was flat. Tell me this isn't real. She cried harder, reached for him. He stepped back. That hurt her more than anything I said, because rejection from me? Expected. From him? Unthinkable. Then he walked away, straight through the ballroom doors, and Audrey broke. Audrey ran after him, dress gathered in her fists, mascara streaking. Guests parted, watching, whispering, staring. Exactly the audience she wanted, just not the script she planned. I stayed where I was, calm, still. Then Marlene looked at me and said, "Dr. Whitman." Pause. "Would you mind explaining everything?" And suddenly, the whole room wanted my version. The ballroom had gone silent. Marlene stood waiting. So did everyone else. I took one breath, then told the truth. College tuition, rent, car payments, wedding deposits, emergency transfers, years of rescue. No dramatics, just facts. When I finished, nobody spoke, because quiet truth lands harder than screaming. And Audrey was still outside chasing the groom. Dad sat down heavily. Older suddenly. Smaller. "Claire." His voice cracked. I didn't know all of it. I looked at him. That familiar ache hit. Because maybe he was telling the truth. And somehow, that made it worse. "You never asked." He looked down. No defense, no excuse, just silence. Which, honestly, was the most truthful thing he'd offered in years. Audrey came back alone. Dress wrinkled, hair falling loose, mascara destroyed. No smiling bride now. Just panic. "Claire, please." Still not sorry. Interesting. Guests watched openly now. No pretending. No polite distraction. This was the event. Audrey stepped closer. "You're ruining everything." I laughed softly. "No." Then looked around. "You did." Audrey turned to the room, desperate. "She's jealous. Classic. Predictable. She always hated me." Nobody reacted. That scared her, because manipulation needs believers. Miles's mother folded her arms. Dad looked ashamed. Even Tessa avoided eye contact. Audrey's voice got louder, more frantic. "She wanted this." I tilted my head, then held up the forged contract again. That ended the lie immediately. Then Miles returned. Ballroom froze. Audrey rushed toward him. "Miles?" He stepped back. "No." One word, sharp, final. Then he looked at everyone, then Audrey. "You committed fraud." She shook her head violently. "I was going to fix it." Bad answer. Miles laughed once, coldly. "With what money?" No answer. Because there wasn't one. Audrey started crying harder, actual sobbing now. But no one moved. That was the difference. When I cried, I solved my own problems. When Audrey cried, people usually rescued her. Not tonight. Tonight, she stood in the center of her dream wedding. Completely alone. And for the first time in her life, tears changed nothing. Miles picked up his jacket, looked at Audrey one last time, then said, "I can't marry someone I can't trust." Simple, clean, fatal. Audrey physically staggered, actually staggered. Then he walked out. His parents followed. Half the guests did too. The ballroom emptied fast, champagne still sparkling, music still playing, flowers still perfect. Everything beautiful. Everything dead. Finally, Audrey looked at me. Not as a victim, not as an audience, just my sister. "Why?" I stared at her, because that question mattered. "Why?" I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "Because I loved you for 13 years." She blinked, confused. I continued. "And you mistook that for weakness." That landed harder than anything else, because it was true. 6 months later, my life was quiet, peacefully quiet. No emergency calls, no money transfers, no guilt texts. Dad started therapy. Actually therapy. We spoke more honestly than ever before. Audrey sent apology emails, long ones. I didn't answer immediately. Healing is not instant just because someone finally panics. Miles never went back. The wedding photos never got published. And Rose Hall returned the unused balance dispute documentation. Case closed. One rainy Sunday, I found the cream envelope in a drawer. Still thick. Still ugly. I held it for a minute, then shredded everything. Every receipt, every forged page, every proof. Not because it didn't matter, because it had already done its job. Some people think revenge is destruction. It isn't. Sometimes revenge is simply refusing to be used again. And family? Family is not who takes from you. Family is who shows up without needing something. That was the night my sister tried to humiliate me, and lost everything instead. If this story reminded you that boundaries are self-respect, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this reminder.